Okay, welcome back, everyone. I have finally returned. Robert, it's always good to have you. Thank you. And yes, I unfortunately have made a grave error. I have run out of Mountain Dew today. So, got got caffeine in a hot form, a Microsoft MVP cup. We're gonna go with that and see if that does the trick. But if I duck out early, we will blame the lack of dew as the problem. I have successfully moved, as everyone can tell by virtue of the fact that I've got the same green screen behind me. So, huzzah! I am now in a completely different place, and it looks identical for all of you. So that's great and exciting. New house is wonderful. Moving sucks. I don't recommend it to anyone. It is painful, painful, painful. You have to put all your stuff in boxes and then try to find it again later and reset stuff up, and then heaven forbid you try to do any sort of work on it. Yeah, it's been fun. Like the new place is significantly better than the old one. So in that regard, it's great. And I have faith that in several months it will be wonderful. So yes, thank you, Rollers. Yeah, the move was fine, and I will say I was incredibly blessed. Um, I asked for some help from colleagues and friends to help me pack up my house to leave. Um, I may have had too many people helping me. They loaded a 26-foot U-Haul in 40 minutes flat, and I went, wow, that was a lot quicker. Izzy, welcome back. Always good to have you. Yeah, so it was wonderful. The limiting factor was the width of my doorway of trying to get stuff out the door. And as I told many of them, you can always tell who your friends are when you say, I need moving help and I own a piano. Whoever shows up, those are who your friends are. It's pretty obvious, but it went well. It went good. So I'm enjoying it. Okay, so a couple things. First of all, I've got a cool announcement. If we go to this lovely getkraken.com workshops, which I will warn you, my entire streaming setup has shifted from being on my right to being on my left. So I'm if I seem backwards, it's because I am backwards. See, I don't have many friends then. Yeah. I, I hear you. I was surprised. I didn't think I had that many friends either. But tomorrow, for those of you who are watching this live, for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, there's probably going to be a recording somewhere. But for those of you live, tomorrow, August 29th, 2024, 12 p.m. Eastern. I think that's like 9 a.m. Pacific for me. I need to check my calendar invite. I am speaking, though. I will be there. I will be awake. I will have coffee. Probably because I don't think I'm going to get Mountain Dew between now and then. But it is going to be a skill builder. They invited Sarah and myself to kind of give, we'll call it pro tips, power users, level up your game with Get Kraken stuff. Sarah will be doing GitLens. I will be doing Get Kraken desktop. It will be awesome. Get Kraken has been trying to do a lot more of these workshops, so feel free to check out the ones that are interested. It's free. So yeah, Izzy, for you, it might be like 3 a.m. it might be a little late or early. Depends on which way you want to think about it. So yeah, but there will be this one here if people are interested. Like it's I enjoy talking about Get Kraken. Like my first question was, how long do I get to talk? Not how long does it need to be. How long am I allowed to talk? Because I will go for hours if left to my own devices. So it'll be fun. We'll show off some of the stuff tonight, maybe. Like on one hand, it almost starts to get hard to find new stuff to show people. But here, I'm going to show you one right now. Sneak peek. See this? If you right click up here, there's these extra columns. One of these columns is special, right? We turn on all these columns. One of these is special. The author column has this little filter button right here. And you can come down here and you can say, you know what? I am only interested in, well, here's the problem when you commit with multiple emails. Which one is this? Gmail. Boom. Right? You can put a filter on of which users' commits you want to be highlighted, and then you can kind of quickly go through and find where those things are. Which I will say, I think that's rather nice because quite often I am, I know who the author is and I want to find them. So, secret pro tip. The author column in the graph is special and has an extra filter button that the other ones don't. It's one of those hidden things. I don't like the date, time, and Shaw. I don't usually care that much. Like date, time, and Git is a little weird anyway because the history can be rewritten. So it's like yeah. Who and sometimes who I can get away with pictures if people have set this up. Ooh, that's another good pro tip. If you want your picture to show up here, Gravatar. That's all they're using. So set your image up with or Gravatar image up with the same email that you're using in GitKraken. Oof, your image shows up. Done. Okay. The other thing, commits with typos. Rollers, I love that you typos. That's just awesome. I appreciate that. Okay, next thing. I've been away for a while. Like I didn't code for like 2 weeks. It was miserable. I was moving. Yuck. Again, don't recommend it. Okay, so Launchpad is where we're going to jump in. And I'm just going to point out that I'm going to hang out on the team section, right? So if I go here, whoop, team, you'll note this is early preview stuff. It's basically my stuff, everyone's stuff. And then more importantly, some of the things that they gave out recently are this grouping stuff, which is really convenient. So in this case, because the material design project, I've got a workspace with like XAML tests, material design, all this stuff. I can just see all the things, right? Kind of wish the last updated would be oldest first. I'll make a comment on that. Hang on. I gotta open a document real quick. Notepad. Let's see. Suggest Launchpad first chronological. Okay. Because generally you want to see the oldest stuff first. Anyway, this one I already know is what's going on with this. Let's just jump in and take a look. This one was draft, and I'm trying to remember why. The floating hint demo command does not seem to be triggered from the pop-up box. Should it be removed? Oh, this is a good question. This is a demo app one, so I'm going to label this demo. It's also a draft, so we'll come back to it. Come back to this. Let's move up. This is XAML test right here, so I'm going to skip it and just focus on the material design stuff. TimePicker tab navigation. Ooh boy, there's a rat's nest of code. Okay, let's see here. Handling, pressing shift and tab to move to the previous element. Even though it's breaking consistency, I intentionally decide against nesting the logic of multiple switch case statements due to readability. If that's unacceptable, let me know. I'm thankful for feedback. Okay. I can respect that. Okay. So this is a fairly common way to be able to go through and check this. I'm kind of curious, and maybe we'll open it up. Process key. I'm curious why this wasn't working out of the gate. Oh, they wrote a UI test. This is excellent. Okay, so TimePicker. And so when they send Shift Tab, they expect the focus to go to the text box, and it wasn't. Okay, one, I'm really impressed. Two, I'm a little surprised at this. Generally, focus is handled for you. And if it's not, usually that means that a focus scope is odd. Because if we look at yeah, focus is one of those deep areas you can get yourself down a rabbit's nest. So I shall summarize. There is logical focus and there is keyboard focus. And those are kind of logical focus, keyboard focus. And they are similar and yet not at the same time. Because, for example, the keyboard focus is if you start typing, right, that's the element that your keystrokes are going to be sending. And there is, right here, there can only be one element on the whole desktop that has keyboard focus. That's it. One. Because when I press a button, that keystroke, and then there's silly focus. I love it, Izzy. But logical focus, and this is where that focus scope that they were doing the traversal request for. There are the elements that have focus. So when keyboard focus leaves a focus scope, the focus element loses keyboard focus but retains logical focus. Right? So when the keyboard focus comes back to that same scope, like if you think of a window, right, as being a focus scope, right? You've got your text box that you're typing in, and then you alt tab to something else. When you alt tab back, keyboard focus is returning to that window, the focus scope, and you expect that text box inside of it to regain focus. Right? That's the general gist of it. And in general, you don't need to really worry too much. Like most of the time with focus, it just works the way you expect. Because as you tab through elements, it kind of goes top down through your XAML, and it usually that's the way you want. If you don't, there's stuff to change it. But in general, kind of out of the box, you get something that at least makes sense. I'm a little surprised to see this thing not working, but when in doubt, let's see here. I don't want to clone. I don't want to clone the repo. I want to. Open pull request in panel. I want to clone this. What's the right button? No, that gets me to GitHub. Oh wait, repo path not found. Click open pull request or locate repo. Whoa. Locate in file system. Why have you lost my? Why have you lost it? It's right here. See? It's right there. Why'd you lose it? Why'd you lose it, Get Kraken? Okay. Yeah. See, check out branch. That's what I want to do. You want to add a remote and check it out? Yes, I do. Why it lost it. Okay. And then Alt O opens up Explorer, and then we launch our solution. Oh yeah, Izzy. Sorry, I saw your post out on Discord about the WinForms host. Yeah, that's hard. That's really hard. The only thing that plays nice between them is keyboard focus because you can only have one in the operating system, so that makes it a little easier. But yeah, going in and out of those, you have to write some code. Like it's really nice that they let WinForms and WPF kind of interop back and forth between each other, but wow. Um uh Setting the wrong one of 3. Oh, let me get. So let's see. Is focusable? Focus scope is focusable, and what's the third one? I'm assuming it was on the WPF side. Focus in WinForms is arguably a little bit simpler, but lacks the same level of control. Lacks this. They don't. If I recall correctly, Windows Forms does not have the concept of focus scope. It's just window. Okay. So we want to look at TimePicker. And more importantly, I want to look at that. So one, the lovely author wrote us a UI test, which is just amazing. So we're gonna. That was TimePicker test, right? Let's see, Launchpad. Pull request. Yeah, so TimePicker tests, and then down at the bottom. Okay, TimePicker tests. Ooh, we could go primary constructor. I will say, I've been slowly warming up to the idea of primary constructors. They still rub me a little wrong, but okay. First of all, let's make sure the test passes. I had to add a custom mapped property. Oh, That's interesting. Also, I did your comment about the libvlc sharp doing templating for that. I've actually looked at that library in the past because I have a few things that I want to build that would involve needing a video player. And so if you want to get a sample of what you're looking to see done, I may end up templating that library for me at some point. So might be a fun one to go through. Primary constructors only for record types. Yeah, like they're weird. They're like I like how small they make my code, but I don't I still there's something about the syntax that still kind of just irks me the wrong way. Let's see. This does not get me TimePicker. And I just love that when I go Control T, it opens up on my tertiary monitor. For whatever reason, that that window is real convinced it needs to be over there. Ooh, switch to a docking window. I haven't seen that before. Hide preview. Huh. Kind of cool. I don't like the preview. Okay, so this guy down here is the change on. So I just want to confirm that this is in fact doing it. Because the one thing that I'm wondering is, so I assume now if I run the test with the code removed, it should fail. I'm just wondering if we can fix this with. Hey, Boxy Bear, welcome. Uh, let's see. I've also got FFmpeg version 2. I don't know what you mean by FFmpeg version. Like a specific FFmpeg version that you need to run, is he? Oh. See, this is interesting to me. With the code commented out, the test still passes. This gives me pause. This gives me a little bit of pause. Because this demonstrates that it clearly works. Patch debugger to remote process, false. I kind of want to just play with this for a minute, so just pause here. We'll play with this control because I don't doubt that there's bug. Just chilling, but pretty hyped to actually seeing 1.0 in sight. Cool. Always happy to have people around. Okay, so there's your TimePicker, right? Oh, interesting. So if I go Shift Tab, and I realize it's not showing on my screen, Control Tab shows up. Tab is perfectly fine to go between them. Shift Tab doesn't. Control Tab goes between them. Test using Shift Tab. Left Shift Tab. That's what I am. I'm surprised. 4 years in the making, could have been done in 6. Oh yeah. What are you working on? Assuming it's something that you can share. Something like. I am surprised that Shift Tab doesn't work. There's a tab on my app using libvlc sharp, one that uses an FFmpeg wrapper library, both just playing Big Buck Bunny from a URL for testing. Doing a demo app so I can test the pros and cons for each project. Is the other one that you are using called? Oh, what is it? There's another one that I've FFmpeg media element is sorry, this guy's in the way. Is this the other library you're using, Izzy? Is this one I also have experience with. Oh, library for Guitar Hero song files. Sweet. Yeah, this one is quite popular. You will note my name is on the contributor list. So I may have touched it once or twice. Because I can't keep my hands out of a project when I see it. Um but yeah, so this one here is fairly good. Um there are some cons to it. And a lot of them most people wouldn't care about. When the project that we used it on, we needed some real low level controls in FFmpeg, um, and it was kind of difficult. Not managed to get that one to recognize the native FFmpeg binaries. Oh. Make sure version numbers match because it's real picky, but it usually should be fairly simple if they're in the right location. There's where is it? There is a static setup for this guy where where's the sample app? That's what I'm looking for. Guy here. There is this guy here, which I'm sure you've already come across. The biggest reasons why it shouldn't find it is like version mismatch or bitness mismatch, because it'll just die and not play nice. It turns out the file formats are a mess. Different games using the same stuff with no distinct mark on which game the file is from. 10 different formats sharing 2 file extensions. Oh, yuck. Oh, yuck. I'm very, very sorry. I'm very sorry, Boxy Bear. I kind of can relate a little bit. Like I've built software that's used for video analysis, and the number of people who abuse things like .mp4 or .h264 is insane. Uh, where does it specify the version number? It doesn't. That's the cool bit. Let's see here. The important part is where it does the mapping to it. Where do they have it? And the other thing is, depending on what you're running, it will oftentimes. Where is it? There is a place in here where it specifies what it needs, because I think it uses, if I remember, it uses FFmpeg AutoGen to get itself going. FFmpeg AutoGen. I think that's where it is. Yeah. So what you're looking for is the FFmpeg AutoGen version, because that's what will link you back to. That's what will link you back to the FFmpeg version. Where is the? I'm trying to remember where the packages get declared in this guy, because this thing's been updated. Like, it started way, way, way back when, and there's a few things I would love to see updated, but where is the packages? Oh, because he's doing import manually. BD element proj items. I know you're using FFmpeg AutoGen. Where are you using AutoGen? Where is your AutoGen versions? Editor rule set. And the others, hence my media finder app. Yeah, somewhere in here, in one of these things, there is a NuGet package reference. And that NuGet package reference, FFmpeg AutoGen, this guy, because FFmpeg AutoGen is what's going to bind you to a specific version of FFmpeg. And install on Windows. Yeah, this is the guy. This is oftentimes where you will grab them, right? So something of this note. So if you follow the bunny rabbit to here, it will lead you to here. This is where you get the relevant binaries that you care about. For the most part, so building FFmpeg from source is not nearly as trivial as one would hope, which is why you end up seeing all of this stuff. But any version 7.0.x should work in this library. This thing is generally versioned to match the FFmpeg version, so that whatever version of AutoGen you have, that major minor should work in FFmpeg. Should. The FFmpeg library is one of the weirdest open source libraries I have ever seen. Like, they still operate on mailing lists and patch files, and they rock it like it's 1990. Like, and if it wasn't such a solid product, like, I might mock them more, but like, they are the de facto Swiss Army knife of all things video. No one comes close. So it, like, can't mock them too much because they're clearly doing something right. That could just be they've got a lot of good people on their maintainer list. That's also possible. But yeah, it is insane watching some of the stuff that they pull off. But yeah. Okay, so given all of that, I'm a little inclined, like, there's clearly a problem here. Yeah, cross compiling for Windows is a major pain. I won't set up a build box to compile FFmpeg because you can find repos and scripts out there where people have tried to make compiling FFmpeg from source less painful. I unfortunately had grabbed one where it was designed for high reproducibility, and so they started with compiling everything from source, starting with GCC and working their way up. Oh, ouch. Yeah. The documentation can be a bit of a pain. If anybody hasn't caught like my previous several streams, I've got secret stuff coming out there. One thing I'll show off as well. For anybody who follows like my Velopack stuff, there is we're experimenting with an AI bot answering questions. Where it sources its data from like issues, discussions, and other Discord chats, and it's been doing pretty well. So it's giving me hope that I may repurpose it on other things. Yeah. So this thing, okay, if I put this back and then run it manually, like, it concerns me that the test passes in both cases. Debug this one again. I'm concerned that that thing happens. Foxy Bear, are you building? Is it a library that you're building as well for interacting with the files, or is it an app? Okay. Yeah, because that definitely adds a layer of complexity to it. Interesting. Tab, Shift Tab. Okay, so with the change in place, it actually works. The test gives me pause, and I'm wondering if this just doesn't work properly. Because testing it manually, it does work. Yeah, library. Okay. Yeah, that does make it a lot harder. I often tell people that there is um a, a bigger curve or quality threshold that has to be met when building libraries. Like it makes it more difficult. Like it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. But it's yeah. It's already decent apps, but the scene is basically a monopoly because of the learning curve and the time investment. Yeah. So one, I applaud you for doing that. I have a similar thing. Like I actually enjoy building libraries. And they're harder because an app is easy because you can just make assumptions and say, no, this is how it's going to work, and you're done. But a library, you have to like account for a lot more variables because developers are going to do stuff. Um, okay, I do want to go look now at because I think like this person has clearly found a bug, but I'm now curious if this is the right fix for the bug because I am interested in doing this, and then debugging this test again, and then I'm getting out my trusty Snoop. Um, and then we're gonna take a look at how it's going. Okay, so I think here, and maybe I should have paused it to just confirm that it moves, but whatever. Where's my? It's off in La La Land. Okay, Snoop, crosshairs by the binoculars, over our window, drop, release, bring this window back on. Okay, and then first thing we're gonna do real quick, just so I can stop. I'm gonna turn topmost off so I can get on top of him. There we go. Okay. Okay, so when I am here on the time picker, I can see that this is my keyboard focused element, the time picker text box. Great. If I go shift tab, who is consuming that? Okay, so let's clear the events. Shift tab. Got focus handled by time picker. If I go here and go down here, keyboard down, lost focus, time picker, got focus, time picker text box. I think the issue is that the time picker itself is focusable. Because when I look at this guy here and here, if we go clear, if I go shift tab, let's see, key down on time picker text box, lost focus, got focus. And this is where it's like it's like it's locked in a scope. Especially ones. Yeah, I know. There's that old XKCD comic of, what we need is one more standard, and then there's, 13 competing standards. Let's see here. Let's see this time picker. Okay, so I want to just collapse you. I want to take a look at your, let's see, clock host style template. Here we go. This is where we want to look. So you are a time picker text box. There's a button, a pop-up, and that's literally the sum total of the template. That's not a very big template. That's a pretty tiny template as it sits. That's interesting to me. Okay, let's put this guy back up. And then we're gonna, yeah, I did see the focus move between those. That's the weird part. That is the weird part. Most gimme. Okay. So let's see. When we go forward, what's happening here? Collapse this window down so it just stays here. Okay. So I go here. Preview key down, keybound down on text box, lost focus on time picker, got focus, time picker text box, tab, key down, lost focus, got focus. But when we go backwards, it gets picked up by the time picker itself. Okay, so if that's the case, go into here. We look at time picker properties. Focus. Let's see. Tab. Tab. Toward focus. Focusable. Time picker text box. I kind of want to go look at him. He has absolutely nothing in him whatsoever. He is literally there as a style target. That is all he is there for. So you are just a straight text box. What? Oh, and that's why focusable targeting doesn't work. Let's remove that template binding. I wonder if that's the kicker. Okay, template binding off. Let's see. Would it be a good idea for interfaces to provide a default, less demanding implementation of IEquatable on the same interface? The mean for a given object calling equals might give a different result based on the declaring type. Ooh. I don't know if there's a straight answer. So I guess a couple thoughts going into it, because equality gets weird. And I should say that the reason there's not a single straight answer is knowing what constitutes two things being equal very much depends on the domain of the object itself. I oftentimes would favor an interface deriving from like IEquatable. It's your question there about less demanding, I assume means allowing like a different base or similar to go through. Which is, yeah. So, and your comment there about calling equals might give a different result based on the declaring type. That is very possible. Equals return 2 based on the lesser information the interface has. Returns true based on it as. Yeah, it has no knowledge of that. Yeah, so typically what you end up doing though is when you implement equals, equals is often implemented as a virtual member on the type. So even though the interface doesn't know about it, at the end of the day, the method being invoked is going to be a method actually on an object itself. And if that method on the object itself is virtual, it allows derived classes to override equals and provide equality for those additional members that they may have. Right. So if you have like an animal class and a dog class, the dog class can do extra comparisons on bark or whatever it might be, right? But animal doesn't know anything about that. And if you have an I animal that just declares I equatable of other I animals, you'll often see a simple check being, hey, does the is the other parameter, the value being passed in, is it castable to my type? Because should a dog and maybe a German Shepherd instance be equal to each other? Well, that depends. Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is no, because if they aren't matching on type, then it does open up that weird situation where it's like, well, because they're common, because their base class members match, then they're equal. It's like, yeah, but they're different types. So you'll often see a get type call inside of an equals comparing to the get type of the other class, and just an early exit if those don't match, because it's like, yeah, if these aren't the same type, we just throw it away and call it off. uh yeah, yeah. And I think like it's an interesting idea. I'd be a little skeptical, just from the potential confusion that it could cause. Because I just think at that point you could run into a situation where, like, if you had an animal class and like dog and cat derived classes, it's possible then for a dog to be equal to a cat despite them being disparate things. And I don't want to say never do it. I think there's potentially cases where it's desirable depending on your domain. And your comment earlier about all of these very kind of weird files that share so much but then are a little different makes me wonder if maybe there's a use case there. But I think in general, my answer would be probably don't. But I don't think I can conclusively say never do it, because something in the back of my mind is tickling me about there being some potential use cases, which gives me a bit of pause. So if I go here, are you guys separate yet? Okay, so you are separate from you. Great. Now, if I open this window back up, can I shift tab? There's the bug. So because the focusable ability of TimePicker text box is tied to the focusableness of this, it means that when you tab, it's moving to the outer control rather than the inner control. And I think that's wrong. Yeah, I think my recommendation would be ditch it just to avoid confusion. If you find a use case though, it'd be interesting to evaluate. Because like I said, there's something tickling me in the back of my head. I'm confused myself. Yeah. So like let me see here. Let's see. Quality. Because there's a no, stop helping me, Bing. Like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, legacy code makes everything interesting. Record types equality, string equality, delegate equality. Oh, delegate equality. This is a fun one. Anyway, sorry. No, this isn't what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this is operators. Yeah, show me equatable. Well, that is worthless. It's worthless Equality comparisons. There we go. Value equality. Is this the one that I? Yeah. Yeah. So this here is generally what people expect. Yeah, and that is one of the weird things. Like, I usually hate when I see people doing double equals and expecting reference-based equality because people forget that operators are basically virtual members and can be overridden. Like, that's terrifying. Yeah, yeah. Reference equals is a thing. Absolutely. If you expect reference equality between two things, definitely use reference equals. The other way you can back into it now is if you use the is pattern matching. That will also give you the same IL as a reference equals if you're doing um, reference comparisons. So it'll force you into a thing. Yeah, reference equality is. Oh boy. Yeah. Thanks, Susie. um, yeah, so you can get yourself into the same situation, but in my mind, the double equals is almost a no-no for me in so many cases. Like, I don't like seeing it for reference types. I and I don't like seeing it when people are expecting equality on like strings. Yeah, but can I rely on users not making that mistake? Yeah, absolutely. Especially as a library author, no, absolutely not. People are totally going to do that. Absolutely, they're going to do that, and it gets, which is why, like, implementing like, if you've got a public class that you're going to do any sort of custom equality on, going down this path is a pretty good way of doing it because it at least lines up with what most people expect. Uh, I have that in my own code. See, you're your own worst user. If x is y and x equals y. Izzy, you're going to make me twitch. Oh, that's okay. So I think we fixed this by doing the following. I think we just remove the is focusable. If we remove the template binding on is focusable, I think we will get the right behavior by default. But let's, because I think the defaults here, because TimePicker text box derived from text box, which I believe defaults focusable to true, and TimePicker I believe defaults to control, which I believe defaults to false. So by deleting the template binding, I think we fix this by virtue of never know if equals mutates the object. Oh man. Okay, so I did a talk a while back of, and now I have to show this. Go find the repo, and I'm sorry for showing you this. I'm just gonna apologize in advance because that's the only thing I can conceivably do. GitHub. What it is today, but occasionally GitHub pages tagging. Read only references on reference types. Yeah, I think there's a few cases like that where if the C# team could go back and like redesign the language from scratch, we would have a slightly different language than what we have today. Uh, let's see. Calamities. Okay, so minimize this for a minute. Minimize this for a minute. So I'm going to show you this repository. Do not copy any of this code. So it comes in here. This program here. There are, like, I started my talk off by saying there are 3 reasonable lines in this program. They are lines 2, 5, and 8. Every other line is a pile of garbage. Just straight up hot pile of garbage. Okay, I can't resist. Let me see if I think I've already got it cloned. Because this is one of my favorite ones to show off. Okay, so I do have it cloned. Perfect. Okay, so just gonna put this guy to the side for people who want to play along. Where'd my code go? Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna do this, and we're gonna go .NET run. Okay. Yeah, ignore the fact that this thing was targeting .NET 5 and there's some warnings now. So just disregard the warnings. Parse, ooh. Please enter your name. Let's make my name Kevin today. Hi, Bob. Please enter your birthday. April 9th. Joe, your birthday. Like, yeah, like, there is so much bad code in this repo. It's amazing. I built a good portion of it on one of my streams, and I think I was giddily laughing at it. Oh yeah, well, so the async in here is like, so there is no console write line async. Like this method doesn't exist on console. The using system is bad. Like everything in here is bad. Every single line in here, aside from 2, 5, and 8, those are the only reasonable lines. Every other line, complete garbage. And if you want to see the bad stuff that's going on, you can kind of like, because you can see the output here doesn't match. Well, hopefully, the output here does not match what you would expect to see. Right, and there's some subtle clues of things that are going on with like the string interpolation starts to get a little weird. You'll note there's a capital S on this string. There's a number of weirdness that's being abused here. The async and await is going crazy, but yeah, so it is. I thought it was hysterical. This is what happens late at night when I decide, ooh, I wonder how bad of code I can write. It turns out pretty bad. Pretty bad. Let me see here. I can find the actual link to the talk if anybody wants to just hate me. Because again, this code is nothing but bad. Let's see. If I could spell, that would really help my search. Yeah. Well, okay, so hang on. Here's this here is the one. Yeah, so if anybody's interested in where I built it, here's the stream where I built it. Yeah, so datetime doesn't support deconstruct. that's the part that's bad. Or timespan doesn't support deconstruct. That again, I built this to show off. Let's take a C# feature and then abuse it as much as possible. So for example, since you called it out as your first one, you can implement deconstructors using extension methods, which means you can deconstruct however you want. And you'll note in my case, if we're gonna write bad code, like my goal was if I'm gonna do it bad, I'm gonna do it real bad. Like your comment earlier about equals mutating an object, yeah. This is that level of bad. Because, yeah. But there is the feature exists in C#. If you want deconstruction on a type and you don't own the type, you can technically implement it. Yeah, there's a few reasons why they get away, why a few things in C# are implemented this way, and oftentimes it allows for back compat. Because if they require new stuff, then it requires everything to kind of update to take advantage of it. But in this case, if they allow duck typing for deconstruction, then things can just magically light up. So types that they can't mutate, like for example, if they were to add additional members to some types, that can often be a binary breaking change. And Microsoft is really adverse to breaking changes because there's a lot of big enterprises where that would be very, very expensive. So they do everything possible to avoid breaking changes where they can. Yeah, and not really a way for IntelliSense to indicate its extension method. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. You're 100% correct. Again, this is under a bad stuff folder for a reason because it's filled with bad stuff. Little things like, hey, you can declare your own string class. Oh, and by the way, I can put it in a global namespace. Yeah. Izzy, I don't think leap years were a big concern of mine when I wrote this. I think I was just giggling and laughing and having fun. And seeing, ooh, what else can I do? I think there's one more. There's one more abuse of. Yeah, there's the console abuse. Module initializers. Oh, this is one of my favorites. If you really hate people, it doesn't conflict with system.string. No, it doesn't. That's the. So this is, well, I shouldn't say it doesn't conflict. It does conflict. It absolutely does conflict. But because it's in my project, it is closer than the one in the BCL, so it takes precedence. So it absolutely does conflict and allows me to then override. It also, because it's my class, I can then do implicit operators from lowercase string, which is a keyword, so you can't hijack keywords that I'm aware of. But then you can do really bad stuff like that. Like, here, well, I'm having too much fun with this. So I implemented my own console. Console read line actually forwards to the real system console read line. Okay, that's not scary too bad yet. Well, I shouldn't say scary too bad yet. Yeah, lowercase string. Write line, however, this is where things start to go crazy. Because you'll remember I put those dollar signs in front of the strings that were being passed in. The reason I put the dollar signs in is because dollar sign in front of a quote doesn't guarantee string formatting. Like an interpolated string can go one of two ways. Most people know about string formatting. Most people don't know about formatable string. You can actually hijack primitives. Oh, see, there's certain knowledge I shouldn't be allowed to have, Boxy Bear. Like that's the type of thing that gets me in trouble because then I do mean things with them. But like formatable string, then you can pull it apart and do what you want, which is kind of cool, which is also how I was able to do, fun emojis. Neat for rappers, though. It is. And that's the thing. All of these features have a use case. This is just not it. This is absolutely not the right use case. Let's see here. Module initializers, because why not be able to execute code? In this case, a module initializer that updates the day names on your current culture. So that when you do a string format, it grabs your current culture and uses that to format things. Well, if I've hijacked your culture info and I've replaced the names of the days, let's go with Latin. Why not? Like, yeah. Should we change the negative sign on your culture to be a coffee cup? Yes, we should. Yeah. So again, is that a use case for module initializers? No, but is it a cool feature? Uh, Yeah, see, and that your example there of enums into objects is actually not a bad one. Like that's one I've used in the past myself. This one here is one of my favorite with the var keyword. If you want to disable var in your project, you just declare class var, make the constructor private, and then no one can use the var keyword again. Yeah, see that Boxy Bear makes it really nice. And oftentimes people will see that in samples and they'll just do it and they won't think about, hang on, why does that work? Right? It works and it's what the programmer wants. And so it's nice. Right? Those types of things are perfectly fine, in my opinion. Is because it works. That is a very loaded Oh boy, Izzy. I'm giving you too many ideas. And then this is one of the last ones. You'll note I wrote my own task because just like we can override string with capital S, we can do the same thing to task. And so this isn't horrible because I've got task completed task, but I've got this static instance count. So this in and of itself is like, okay, there's something weird, but then it's like, well, how bad can we make it? Well, it turns out you can hijack the entire async and await because that's also done with duck typing, which is really cool. Because most people, like, they're familiar with the fact that you can, also publicly settable instance count. Yeah. Again, this was designed to be bad code. The idea here was multiple, right? So if we look at the output, right, and I just want to back up to just to punctuate how absolutely horrible this is, right? So just to be clear, the output here, like we said, hi, Bob. So name outputted Bob. Please enter your birthday. Right? And then it changed Bob into Joe. Somehow between here and here, Bob changes into Joe. Just, I'm going to point that out. And the difference is this, the reason it changes from Bob into Joe is because of this await keyword. Now, people are usually familiar with the fact that you can await a task, and some people are familiar with like value task and knowing that it's also awaitable. But most people just think, oh, those are .NET things. Of course they're awaitable. Well, there's a handful of other types in the BCL that are also awaitable, but you can make your own types awaitable too. You just have to implement the right members, and then you can await it, which is absolutely terrifying. Again, duck typing for the win. So naturally, I made, and more importantly, you can make a type awaitable with extension methods. So the same abuse that we saw earlier, where deconstruct was done with an extension method, you can make a type awaitable with extension methods. So naturally, what we did is we said, hey, let's wait until it's time to erase Bob. Right? Once erase Bob goes true, what we're going to do is we're going to come down here, and this is a task awaiter. So this is something that is returned when you await one of my tasks, right? And you'll note we erase Bob when that instance count goes to true. So every time we new one of these suckers up, we're adding one to that instance count. So on the second one, is important, right? We're going to erase Bob. We're then going to use unsafe code to get a hold of the pointer to an interpolated string, or an interned string, because the reference of two strings are typically going to be interned into the same memory location. Grab a hold of that memory location and just straight up overwrite Bob with Joe. And we can get away with this because they're both 3 letters long, right? The space allocated by the CLR will have enough for 3 characters. So we're just going to say, you know what? Get rid of the BOB and replace it with JOE. Done. Right? All because we happen to await something twice that was awaitable because of an extension method. And the type just happened to be our own task. String is immutable. Yeah. String's real immutable. Real immutable. Yeah, so there's occasionally times. Okay, one more. I got one more sample, because there are things that I shouldn't be allowed to do. Some days I enjoy writing really bad code. Okay, so there was so for anybody who's not following Sebastian League, I might be getting his name wrong. He put out a while back this chess coding challenge. And I enjoy chess, I enjoy C#. This was right up my alley. The interesting thing here is it was all about making a chess bot, but the size of the chess bot was limited, and I'm trying to remember the exact counts here. You were limited based upon the number of tokens, and a token was defined by Roslyn token count. Yeah. So you only got 1,024 tokens. So you can kind of play around a little bit, but that also meant that you then dropped code all the way in. But because it was based on tokens, right, it meant that naming variables a versus very long variable name was equal, right? And there was also some rules around, okay, no fair cheating and encoding extra stuff in long variable names or similar things, right? There was a handful of these things, right? And so the other big limitation is only the following namespaces are allowed. Okay? This is real restrictive. Getting down to just this is it was either code you wrote, which would then count against your token limit, or these namespaces. That was it. Right? And even within system.link, the as parallel was banned. And I went, the system namespace has a lot of stuff in it. A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. And more importantly, it has marshal and it has delegate. And with those two things, you can do a lot of damage. You can do a lot of damage. So, what did I do? Well, I did something bad. Is it? Let's see. I'm trying to remember which one was mine. Was it this one? Get legal moves. Where is highest value capture piece? No, this isn't. This isn't it. Where is mine? Trampoline. There we go. Trampoline. Trampoline is where things got interesting. Yeah. Okay. So this was the bot that I submitted. And let's see. At 74 lines total in the file. But here's the thing. The method that you were supposed to implement was this think method, right? You go through and you need to make a thing. And you'll note I looked at the number of moves that had been made, and after the second move, I declared that my bot would flip the table and declare victory. That was the way I intended to play the game. This is not the way you should play chess. You should not flip tables and declare victory. But the important part here is figuring out whose turn it is, because depending on whether I was white or black, I wanted to make my side win, not just any side win. And then you'll note I have this method called cheat and declare victory. Again, this is not something you should do. Let's see. We come down here. I've got this static constructor. And you'll note my static constructor, I guess I use type as well. I pull the marshal type out because I needed it. I then go after creating delegates. And specifically, I want the marshal read int pointer and marshal copy methods. And then we start to do these fun things in here. And here's the idea. When you invoke a method in C#, the runtime has to know where in memory that method is, right? For people who've taken like operating system classes, functionally at the CPU, there's going to be a load pointer address to where the function is, and then a jump to that location, right? It's got to set up some parameters and whatnot. But the idea is it gets the pointer to the method and then jumps to that location and then starts executing. Well, it turns out if you get yourself a hold of that the table that the CLR has for methods, you can just rewrite that pointer to somewhere else. This is scary because you can rewrite it to point at your method. So the whole idea of this is at a particular point, and I made a sweeping assumption that, for reference, I submitted this, and I think I put a big disclaimer at the top saying, I fully understand if my bot gets disqualified. It didn't make it into his video, so don't know if he disqualified it or not, but there were a lot of submissions. He only had so much time to work with. But I thought this one was cool. And for all I know, it could have just crashed out. I don't know the system that he ran it on. I had to kind of guess. And I made a sweeping assumption. I'm like, it's probably a 64-bit system. Because this +8 is going to be wrong if it's not. But it then kept me from having to do some extra math and things to be able to go through and do it. But it would rewrite the uh, the method pointer for get game state on this arbiter class. Yeah, size of n int we smart. Yeah, yeah. The I don't believe n int is available because I think this was net 6. I'd have to go back and look at it for when it was supposed to go. The other thing is you didn't submit code; you just copied the text and submitted it via Google form. But yeah, that was functionally the idea: is get game state gets remapped to cheat and declare victory instead. And then it comes in here and if flip table, flip the table and declare victory. It was pretty slick. I got a good laugh out of it. I don't know if anyone else would. There was a handful of people. There was one guy that actually had a really clever trick where he used his object's destructor to basically sit on the clock and run his opponent's clock out. I was like, that's clever. That's clever. I total cheese play, and I loved it. I loved it. So one, for people who aren't following Sebastian, you should absolutely follow him. He makes cool stuff. Okay, I got distracted. Slightly distracted. Okay, so the defaults did not work. That's exciting. Go here. I want to just look at this now real quick because there's our text box and we know we are looking at focused or focusable. You are focusable. Are you focusable? You are. So I want you not focusable and you focusable. So I think what I want to do then is I want to go here, stop execution, please. And I want to do setter property focusable value. Nope, false. True is the exact problem we're trying to fix. Oh, link to the GitHub. Yeah. Sorry about that. Let me grab that. Okay, so this. So here is mine. But Sebastian's is here that I had forked off of. And the README, I believe, has yeah. The README has links out to his YouTube videos. Okay, if we go here and let's go back to the test. Plus, he has a very, what I would describe as a calming voice. Tab, shift tab. Haha. There we go. There we go. So tab, shift tab. Great. Okay, so that is, so now more importantly, what I expect is I can run this, because I think this test is good to have. Yep, perfect. Let's see. That goes there, that goes there, that goes there. And then I think we don't need this explicit key handler down here anymore. Okay, here. The other thing I'll show people real quick, in case people haven't seen it, like this pattern here is very much a common pattern for bitwise operators on enums. There's a simpler one now. Like you can just do this. You don't have to do the and all that stuff. So the and pattern that you see there is, I think has flag was introduced in Sharp 9, 10, somewhere in that range. And so older code obviously won't have it, but it is a nice convenience method that they added to enum. So, but more importantly, don't need this anymore. Speaking of which, let's change it down here. Nope, still need that one. I can count my parens. I'm a developer. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm reading it to make sure I didn't accidentally change behavior. Let's see here. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's look at what we've done. I'm gonna move myself to the other side so I don't sit on top of it. I will say, latest version of Get Kraken. I love this box. I love this box. And for those people who want to default the box to checked, there is an option. Let's see here. So file preferences, and then up here, if you check this box, it will default the state of that other box to true. I love this box, and I submitted some feedback that I would love it. I'd love to have more granular control. Like I don't want it to default to true globally, but I'd like to default it to true on certain repos or certain workspace, or like I want a more fine-grained thingy-mabobber. Okay, so let's check here. So that fixed there, that fixed there, great. That removes there. We do not need the test change. Adjusting fix so that it leverages WPF focus scopes. This removes the manually handle the strokes. So, and now what we'll hope for is we will see if the original person left me push permissions. Yes, they did. Huzzah! Huzzah! And then after the races, enable auto merge, confirm auto merge, put it in the milestone. And honestly, this is a bug fix. We're going to flag it as such. And then it seems kind of pointless, but I'm going to just mark it as approved so it's clear. Okay. Okay. Now let's go look at some of the other ones that were in there from the NumericUpDown. Let's see here. So review pull request. Okay, so event manager, register class handler. Registering for the Got Focus event. Okay. I think there's a virtual member you can override. Let's see here. Oh, interesting. So this moves. Shift tab is pressed. Move it to the text box. This is interesting. So the focus stuff and the tab stuff I can understand. The select all gives me pause. I understand the desire to have this, and I've implemented similar things, but I am less inclined to make the default behavior of the control do that. I think what I'm more likely to do is enable other people to do this in their own code with like a behavior or similar. Points awarded though. Wrote tests. I will say when I see nice tests written like this makes me very happy. Let's see. This looks very similar to the other one. Not a huge fan of the underscore in the identifier name, but that's not a big deal. Let's look at the other one because I have a feeling this is going to be very similar. Supports decimals. Why? Why you know? I want to view the PR. Why you know let me view PR? I want to review the PR. Oh, it doesn't have. Repo path not found. Why have you lost the repo path? I do not understand why you are losing my repo paths. Okay. Mildly annoying. Mildly annoying. Get cracking. Review pull request. Okay, let's take a look at this one. As a remote to view file change. Yeah, please. Okay, so let's see. We have a demo with the numeric up down. Value min step 1. Let's see, what is this doing here? Oh. Yeah. So converting all of the ints over to decimals. The size of value for each increase or decrease. Interesting. What were we doing before for the step size? Something's funky. Yeah. Before we were plus minusing 1, plus minusing 1. Another case where I'm not overly thrilled with the solution. It makes me want to go through and do something a little different. I actually want to go look. There's some prior art GitHub app. There's actually been quite a bit of collaboration with the author of Ma apps on this library. I believe he has a numeric up down, and I'm kind of curious as to how he solved this because I know he's gotten a lot of numeric up down. And okay, so how did you handle this? How did you handle this? Because my ideal situation would be do it as a generic, but generics and WPF, because generics were introduced in the same version of C# that WPF was. It means WPF was not written with generics in mind because they were building it at the same time generics were being built. Delay. Oh, interesting. Okay. Alignment, step property. It's only just trying to figure out where do they the mouse. Yeah, I'm a little hesitant to do some things like this. Their value is straight up double, it looks like. Numeric input mode. Oh, do they support multiple? Interesting. So they do some fun stuff. Yeah, and this code is a little old. It's using old tuple as well. Interested to take a look at that enum. Minimum, maximum. Yeah, because they've done double everywhere. Like, see you, Boxy Bear. Thanks for hanging out. Pleasure having you. Get some rest. Yeah, I'm a little hesitant to merge it blindly. Yeah, this thing has got a lot of stuff on here, and there's some interesting choices inside of here. Curious why this was needed. string formatting, but there's already numeric input. This numbers all. So when they say decimal, they mean decimal point, not decimal type. Yeah, see that gives me a bit of pause. I'm more likely to introduce a generic base with two derived classes than converting over entirely to decimal. Partially to the avoiding wanting to convert over to decimal is somewhat around the idea that decimal doesn't have implicit conversions back to int. Like it's a completely breaking change. But I can fully appreciate the desire to want to have a controlled step because the currently our step is 1 and it's hard coded and there's no way around it. Right? Like I can appreciate that there is a desire to allow some control of that. And I think I'd probably just call it step or value step or something rather than this. But I'm wondering if a better change here would be a common base class that's generic. Like I'm wondering how valuable it is to have this because clearly the template is working just fine. I'm wondering if that makes it better. Because I'm a little hesitant to make this change blindly. This would be a pretty big breaking change, but I am wondering about yeah, because I'm wondering if maybe a decimal up down would be acceptable. Okay. Let's see. Or opening the pull request. Hang on. We shouldn't do this here. This back over here. Let's see. We're opening the pull request. Intent to change types from int to decimal. That would breaking change for one currently. Um. The following alternate one. Two. Uh. Up down base. E class. Why are you dragging it? Like, not understand why you are so slow. Come on, come on, speed up. Let's see. We'll figure out more. Merrick up down. Derive from up down int. Let's see. Create a new decimal up down class from decimal new implicit style. Style for decimal up down based on the Numeric down style. All of the here. And not all of the code. Base class. To abstract. Members needed. New property for values depth. Amount decremented. Yeah. Lots. Okay. But I really appreciate when people do this. Quick question as you're on it. Go for it, Izzy. Hopefully it doesn't require me to load GitHub pages because they are dragging. A real bad time. How can I change the color of the buttons? Oh, the buttons on the numeric up down control? Problem saving your comment. Try again. It claims there is no problems. I am going to call the dire. Problem saving your comment. Please. Copy comment. Refresh. On the numeric up down. Sure. Since let's paste this real quick somewhere so I don't lose it. And then thing is here. Let's take a look. There may or may not be a trivial way of doing it, but there's probably a dirty trick with an implicit style. Let me just look at the template in here real quick. So let's see. There is a text box with a repeat button, nested numeric up down button style. Type button base. So I think looking at this, there's a dirty trick that's sitting right here. But I think if we steal this, go to the demo app and let's test what I think is going to be a solution. Numeric down. So numeric up down. There's this guy. Great. If we do something like, come on, why is everything dragging? My problem. Design numeric up down style. Okay. Do style target type numeric up down based on, and then we're going to pull in the implicit style that's there. Actually, let's pull the explicit one. We'll be real clear about what we're after. Right? And then we just grab this little bit of code, paste it here, get rid of this, we bring this in, and then change this to be style, and then we go setter, property, background, and obviously the only correct color here is fuchsia. and then we test it. It must make it fuchsia. Correct. Yes, absolutely must make it fuchsia. And I believe this works from looking at the template, but we shall confirm. My buttons are fuchsia. So key thing here, because the template for numeric up down is referencing this style, and in general you don't do styles as dynamic resources. You almost always do them as static resources. But by making them dynamic, it leaves it open for someone to provide something else with this same key. And as long as you provide a style with this key that is closer than this one in the base style, you get to win. And you probably want to derive from the same base style type. And as long as you do that, it works, right? So in this case, we just created one with the same key, target type button base, based on, and then at that point, you've got a style with whatever setters, triggers, go crazy, sky's the limit, right? You probably want to base it on this built-in style or be something close to it, but you don't have to. Like, this is just the flat button style, so you could mix it up and do something different. But it gives you control over the colors and all that jazz. So the only things you will not be able to set, I'll just check here. You will not be able to set foreground directly, margin, opacity, or content. So those ones there are not settable via the style. Just be aware of that. So I don't know if foreground's going to be a sticking point for you or not, because you just said color. You didn't say foreground or background. Foreground is currently set to follow the text box. So I'm trying to look and see. This one isn't set directly. Is it set here? This one is text box base, so it's likely not going to be set. Yeah, so it's going to be using text element foreground. So if you're wanting to set the foreground color of the buttons, you're going to be kind of out of luck unless you're willing to let so for example, if you want to set the foreground of them, if you do text element dot foreground, and we'll do lime, because that's obviously the best color, right? You can then get lime inside of them as the foreground color. Yeah, so if background's good enough for you, great. You're off to the races. The other thing I am noticing though is because opacity is controlled here, you may play around with the hint opacity as well. Just know that that's also going to, if you're using the hint in the text box area, that may or may not be problematic for you, right? So, for example, hint assist and opacity. So I can copy and paste later. I can do one better for you, Izzy. I can do one better for you. So if you do something like that, I'm going to switch off because I'm sitting on the PR branch here at the moment. I'll switch back to master real quick, and then we'll do it. But if I go here, right? So now I have full opacity. So if the things are hard to read, if you aren't using the hint for anything, setting hint assist, hint opacity will get them off of that faded look. it's one of those things that it's kind of hard. Like there's always this constant struggle between what do you control versus what do you let be configurable, and you always want good defaults, but it's hard, right? I think if I were to change this up, I might, rather than doing opacity, um, I'd almost prefer, and this is where it doesn't work, right? Is I would almost prefer the brush here be a theme brush with an alpha to it rather than opacity here. Because then if you replace it with something like fuchsia, you get full fuchsia. Someone can do that. But giving that giving that to you. So we're going to switch here on the master because it shouldn't make a difference. Should be no conflicts. And then we're going to pop that sucker. And then we are going to go over to the cloud batch one. Figuring